Have you ever wondered what the weirdest law in the world is? Well, strap in, because today we're taking a deep dive into a law from Alabama that sounds like it came straight out of a cartoon. In the great state of Alabama, it is illegal to drive a motor vehicle while blindfolded. I know what you're thinking, isn't that just common sense? And you'd be right. But the fact that this had to be written down as an actual law means something must have happened, right? So, what's the real story behind this bizarre piece of legislation? Did someone actually try to drive with their eyes covered? Let's unravel this mystery together. The story of this law isn't as clear-cut as you might think. There isn't a single well-documented incident of a blindfolded driver causing a major pileup that forced lawmakers into action. Instead, the origin seems to be a fascinating blend of historical context, urban legend, and a bit of legislative spring cleaning. Let's first travel back to the early days of the automobile, the 1920s and 30s. Cars were a new and sometimes terrifying invention for many people. Roads were poorly maintained, there were no traffic lights, and driving rules were, to put it mildly, a bit of a free-for-all. Lawmakers were scrambling to create a comprehensive set of rules to bring some order to the chaos. Think of it like the Wild West, but with sputtering Model T Fords instead of horses. During this era, many states were drafting their first major traffic codes. Lawmakers would often look at what other states were doing and borrow language, or they would try to think of every possible reckless thing a person could do behind the wheel. The goal was to cover all bases, no matter how unlikely. It's in this context that our blindfolded driving law was likely born. The idea wasn't necessarily a reaction to a specific event, but a proactive, if slightly absurd, measure. It was part of a larger effort to define what reckless driving meant. A lawmaker probably thought, what's the most reckless thing imaginable? Driving with your eyes shut. And so they added it to the books. It was a way of drawing a very clear line in the sand about what constituted safe versus unsafe driving. Now, let's get to the more exciting part of the story, the daredevils. While the law might not have been a direct response to one person, the 1920s and 30s were the age of public stunts and spectacle. Vaudeville performers, barnstorming pilots, and thrill-seekers would do anything for a crowd. It was the era of flagpole sitting and wing walking. And yes, it was also the era of blindfold driving stunts. These performers, often magicians or self-proclaimed psychics, would claim to use supernatural powers to navigate through city streets while blindfolded. Of course, it was all a trick. They'd use specially designed blindfolds with tiny peepholes, or they'd angle their heads just right to see down their nose. These events would draw huge crowds, but they were incredibly dangerous. They often had a person on the running board of the car shouting directions, but you can imagine how easily things could go wrong. It's highly plausible that Alabama lawmakers caught wind of these dangerous stunts happening across the country. They might have seen a newsreel or read a newspaper article about a blindfolded driver causing a panic in another city. Fearing that this trend would make its way to their state, they decided to outlaw it before it became a problem. So in this version of the story, the law wasn't about stopping everyday citizens from making a terrible mistake, but about preventing traveling showmen from endangering the public for the sake of entertainment. It was less about common sense and more about cracking down on dangerous public spectacles. Let's imagine a fictional scenario to bring this to life. Picture it. Birmingham, Alabama, 1928. A charismatic performer calling himself the Great Mysterio rolls into town. He advertises a death-defying feat. He will drive his shiny new Ford Roadster from City Hall to the train station, completely blindfolded, guided only by the vibrations of the city. A huge crowd gathers, a mix of curious onlookers and skeptical police officers. Mysterio puts on a thick black blindfold, a local official ties it tight, and he starts the engine. He lurches forward, swerving wildly. People are screaming, some are cheering. He narrowly misses a fruit cart, then a horse-drawn wagon. The police chief, watching with a growing sense of dread, realizes this stunt is a public menace. The very next week, he petitions the state legislature. We have to stop this madness. He declares, let's make it explicitly illegal to drive while blindfolded. And thus, the law is born from the chaos of the Great Mysterio's stunt. While this is just a story, it captures the spirit of the time and provides a very logical reason for such a specific law. Over the years, the law has mostly faded into obscurity, becoming one of those quirky dumb law listicles you see online, but it has popped up in the news from time to time. In one notable instance, a person was actually cited under this law, but not for what you'd expect. They were driving with a big fluffy steering wheel cover that partially obscured their view of the dashboard. The officer, perhaps with a sense of humor, cited the blindfold law as part of a broader reckless driving charge. It highlights how these old, strange laws can sometimes be creatively applied in modern situations. It's a reminder that even the most bizarre-sounding rules have a place in the legal tapestry. But let's step back and think about the bigger picture. This law, as funny as it is, speaks to a fundamental principle of lawmaking, trying to anticipate human behavior, even the most illogical. Lawmakers can't just rely on common sense because, as we all know, common sense isn't always that common. They have to spell things out. The Alabama blindfold law is an extreme example, but it asks a testament to the challenge of creating rules for a complex society, where people might, for reasons of feigned foolishness or just plain bad judgment, do something as mind-bogglingly stupid as driving without being able to see. So, what's the verdict? Is this the dumbest law ever? Maybe not. When you consider the historical context, the birth of the automobile, the rise of dangerous public stunts, and the need to create comprehensive traffic codes from scratch, it starts to make a weird kind of sense. It was a product of its time, a time when the world was trying to figure out the rules for this new, fast and dangerous machine that was changing society forever. The law is a historical artifact, a legislative fossil that tells a story about a bygone era. And what can we learn from it? Well, for one, don't drive blindfolded. Seriously, please don't. But more importantly, it shows us that behind every strange rule, there's often an even stranger story. It encourages us to be curious, to dig deeper, and to question the world around us. The next time you hear about a weird law, like it being illegal to whisper in church in Delaware or to fall asleep in a cheese factory in South Dakota, remember the blindfolded drivers of Alabama. There's probably a fascinating, forgotten story just waiting to be rediscovered. It's a fun reminder that history is full of quirky details and that the law, for all its seriousness, can sometimes have a pretty good sense of humor. So the next time you're on a road trip through Alabama and you see the open road stretching out before you, just be grateful you can actually see it. And maybe give a little nod to the great Mysterio and all the other daredevils of the past who, in their own reckless way, helped shape the rules that keep us safe today. The law might be old and strange, but its message is timeless. Keep your eyes on the road. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into one of America's weirdest laws. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more strange stories from history, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what weird law you'd like me to investigate next. Until then, stay curious.